Donald Trump walked into the WEF yesterday and started playing like he was a boxer and a comedian. Let's get into it. Before we go any further, my name is Casey. I've been a husband, father, therapist, and a concerned conservative man for more than a decade. And I created this channel to try to promote a future of faith, fatherhood, and freedom in America. If you can get behind that, please like on the way in, and I'd love to earn your subscription. Let's see what Trump said to all these world leaders at the WEF World Economic Forum yesterday. First, Trump talked about windmills and how ugly they are, as well as how poor they operate in actually generating energy for the countries that they're in. And he points out very candidly that China creates all the pieces, parts for these windmills, then they sell them to the countries who have this ESG, environmental and social governance idea, which basically came out of the WEF, and they have just bankrupted the societies that they're actually being placed in, as well as being a hazard to the environment where they are, especially when they're in the ocean, when things break down, as they did in Martha's Vineyard last year, and windmills fall apart. It ends up poisoning the ocean and making it unusable for the people who live in that location. And so this is a great point taken well. Watch what Trump says.
There are windmills all over the place, and they are losers. One thing I've noticed is that the more windmills a country has, the more money that country loses and the worse that country is doing. So
for some reason, Emmanuel Macron showed up to the WEF wearing sunglasses, which may be an indication that his wife got a little bit handsy with him, as we recall the slap scene around the world last year when Brigitte Macron actually slapped her husband on camera. So Trump, like a good comedian that he happens to be and just a TV personality, ended up pointing that out. And we still haven't gotten to the bottom. Supposedly there was an eye surgery or something like that. But watch what he says about Macron.
Emmanuel Macron, I watched him yesterday with those beautiful sunglasses. What the hell happened?
The markets in America were reacting negatively to the fact that America was attempting to make moves on Greenland, and Trump sort of put those fears at ease a little bit, as he says that he wouldn't use military force to enter into Greenland, but that he is interested in some type of economic bargaining to make Greenland another territory of the United States. He uses the premise that that will be a promoter of world protection, world peace, as he's attempting to make some of those ice waterways that are melting and becoming open less available to Russia, less available to China, and more available to the European Union countries that might actually need that waterway for their defense and the proliferation of their ideals in the Western Hemisphere and the Eastern.
After the war, we gave Greenland back to Denmark. How stupid were we to do that? But we did it. But we gave it back. But how ungrateful are they now? What I'm asking for is a piece of ice, cold and poorly located, that can play a vital role in world peace and world protection. Canada gets
Trump then takes shots at America's evil top hat Prime Minister Mark Carney. As the Canadian PM, he's basically got elected because Trump started being aggressive. So this was an instance where Trump really made a big mistake in sort of pressing the liberal world order into having a little bit more resilience in Canada, where it looked like the conservative candidate might have won otherwise. So Mark Carney must play the role that he's been elected to play, which is tough guy against the United States and against Trump. And Trump says in this part of his speech that basically Canada wouldn't have nearly the wealth, prosperity, or availability to take in all these immigrants. Also the availability to use medical assistance in deletion, or the MAID program, which has taken the more than 10,000 people down in last year. A certain percentage of the Canadian populace is going by that route, which is, of course, obscene. And so Trump takes an appropriate shot at Mark Carney.
Canada gets a lot of freebies from us, by the way. They should be grateful also, but they're not. I watched your Prime Minister yesterday. He wasn't so grateful. But they should be grateful to us. Canada Canada lives because of the United States. Remember that, Mark, the next time you make your statements.
Trump then says that he underestimated the Somalian immigrants that were coming to the United States because they did have great success in aggressing themselves against the Tim Walz administration and actually, taking a lot of corrupted money out of the Minnesota government and out of the federal government and using it for schemes and then eventually sending it as remittances back to the Somali people, which our remittances, I'm sure, are funding a great deal of the Somali economy. And Trump actually, he kind of throws a barb at them and is kind of a backhanded compliment here.
The Somalian, they turned out to be higher IQ than we thought. I always say these are low IQ people. How did they go into Minnesota and steal all that money?
Trump then reveals in the last portion how he's really using the tariff as leverage for a great many of the economic negotiations that he's having throughout the world. He details a phone call with the PM of Switzerland where she was being especially aggressive against him. He called her nasty, or exactly how he described her, I don't remember. But then he says that he got off the phone with her and he decided to raise the tariffs on Switzerland by about 10% just because of how rude she was during the phone call, revealing that he actually is using tariffs maybe more as a bargaining tool than an actual certain and long-term financial burden on these other countries. But really, the evening out of the type of tariff landscape throughout the world is something that's long overdue, and I did vote for that. I believe that the American economy and the fiat currency is headed down a bad path at some point. Watch what he says about
so many people from Switzerland. Incredible place, incredible, brilliant place. But I then realized that they're only good because of us.
Whether you like him or not, and certainly his boorish style can be a little bit off-putting to certain people, the people of the WEF who nigh only 4 years ago said that you will own nothing and you'll be happy, you're going to eat the bugs and you'll love it. These people deserve every little bit of aggression against them that they get, certainly verbal aggression, and Trump is the one to do it because at this point he is reinstituting the strong gods, which are nationalism, and a great many of these people are having flashbacks to what they've been so traumatized by in the world wars, and so it's somewhat understandable that they might take umbrage with some of the things he says or the way that he says it, but the strong gods of power politics are back, and Trump is making that evidently clear to the WEF. And I did vote for this because these world elites who believe that they're pulling the strings of all the puppeteers should come down and live a real life with real citizens who are struggling with the amounts of inflation that have been imposed by certain economic policies, by struggling with fear of the Great Reset, which they very openly stated it was the time in 2020 to impose the Great Reset. These people believe that they know better than you do how to live your life, and they will impose their economic desires and even their social and environmental social desires upon the populace, but they certainly will not impose them upon themselves as they fly in their private jets to go have caviar around the world, leaving all of us to pay the bill because we are handcuffed to these companies and these giant corporations that are doing so much dirty work to continue to keep their bag afloat. And so I voted for this, and I'm proud of my president for going in there and throwing some haymakers. If you'd like to throw some verbal haymakers, as I used to be a boxer, that's why the theme of the channel is Rumble Right Dad, I would really appreciate your support. Thanks for watching.